Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson, founder of galacticspiritualinformers.com, which is the greatest event every year, maybe twice this coming year, in disclosure. Everything UFO, legend, monster, any system that's being taken down, any level of authority on your planet that doesn't serve you, humanity, that we're discussing. We're very anti-authority that doesn't serve humanity on this channel. So if you have the personality of a snowflake and you get easily offended, this is not the channel for you, my love. This is not the channel for you, Poppet Socks. So part of what I've been doing on my beautiful channel in terms of my way of helping you on your spiritual seeker's journey, on your journey of understanding what this world is made up of, who is on this planet, what is real on this planet. I wrote a book a while ago. It's called Angels, Demons, and Aliens. Angels, demons, and aliens. These are the physical species I have personally interacted with, and I know firsthand they are all real. They are all physical. Not in your mind, not in your la-la meditation, physically real. I've met them. That's why I wrote about them. And a lot of you have interacted with them too. I know you've been ridiculed. I know you've been harmed. But you know what? It's okay. They didn't know any better. The ignorant ones, the untrained ones, the ones who've had none of the experiences that you have, those ones, they didn't know. It's not okay that they were unkind. Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. But it's done. So now we have to get on with our healing. So when I read my stories that you've asked me to read you another one, I've done, this will be my third one now. I did one the other day and I suggested maybe reading the demon and the ballerina story because that was a really dark entity. And quite a few of you in the comments said, yes, please read the story. So here I am. I'm going to read that story. Say story, but it's actually a real life experience that did happen in an investigation I did in San Diego around 2015 or 16. It might have been earlier. I think it was about 2015. I might have written the date here. I haven't read this story for a while. I don't practice. Everything here is pretty much unscripted. So before I start, little thing for, Christmas is coming up. Of course, we're going to be buying presents for each other. That's what half the world does at Christmas. We don't need to get into what Christmas is or any of that. It's a fact. We're still going to buy presents, no matter how much we're transforming on the journey that we're on. So for the beautiful GISIC conference, the Galactic Spiritual Informers Conference that we just had in October, I had some of these made. Bling, bling. I do love me a bit of bling. As you can see, it's Sunday and I'm wearing all my cheap rubbish that I love. These are all treasures to me, mostly off Amazon or from Claire's Accessories. You know what? Always wear your Sunday best every day. Don't wait. Don't wait. Why would you wait? You get to do what you want to do, especially right now. It's a bit bumpy out there, so why not put our best clothes on? Hey, why not? And ladies, if you do start suddenly dressing up and spraying your favorite perfume and making a bit more of an effort because you know you can, and if your man or partner asks you, why are you wearing perfume? Why are you? Because I've had a couple of geezers in the past that did that to me. We're no longer together, clearly. But if men or other partners start to question and accuse you of, making yourself beautiful for somebody else, maybe you need a new husband. Just saying, coming up to New Year, a lot of people do clear out what doesn't work for them anymore. Back to the bling bling. Here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but I have a slogan, and I say, my planet, your planet, our planet. I always make the heart sign. Your planet, my planet, our planet. And so I had these beautiful water bottles made on the Galactic Spiritual Informers on Spread Shop. I'll put the link down below for you. Excellent stocking fillers, really nice presents. We've got it in like a green, this color, the gold, and a pink, and we've got tons of hats, sweatshirts. It was so lovely at Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection. It was just this past October. We did our second year in Orlando. There was almost 1,000 people there again this year. It was really quite amazing. And plus we had a live stream on Zoom. And it was so lovely that we had so much merchandise there for people to buy if they wanted it. And so many of you wore your big old sweatshirts with the hoods in the audience. I remember walking through like, wow, it was so nice. It was so nice. It was so different. And I felt so happy that there's so many of us now that like are really part of GISIC. We're so connected through the heart to just, you can, so many of us have these wonderful friendships, and we feel a sense of gathering, a community, almost, although I'm not really keen on that word because I don't want it ever to limit us, because we are global, we are universal, all of us as a humanity. But anyway, so these are beautiful. There's many different other things that you can buy too. And also, of course, you can get my book, which I'm going to read to you now. Chapter 12, The Demon and the Ballerina, From Angels, Demons and Aliens by DANI Henderson. And you can get that on Amazon. Again, let's not go into Amazon. I had no option. And I either get the book out now or I don't. And we all, you know, sometimes make a little push on not everything we agree with, but we can't all be holier than thou. Otherwise, we all starve to bloody death. And what's the point of that? I don't like victims and I don't like martyrs. I'm sure you don't either. So speak it, be real about it, and let's all move along. Now, I'm going to take you through the journey here, The Demon and the Ballerina. Oh, it was 2016. In 2016, a long-term friend who's an Irish intuitive called me to say a producer in New York wanted to film us for an investigation, as she had an idea for a TV show. Now, I've done a lot of television in Britain already, paranormal, psychic, clairvoyant. I've been blindfolded, taken around London. Those videos are on my YouTube channel, this channel you're watching, DANI Henderson. Go to the very bottom. They were done in 2010, like 2010. Where I was blindfolded and taken to places in London. Nobody said a word to me. I wouldn't allow it. And then I basically had to go in and then feel into where I was, and I nailed it each time. Not an easy thing to do, really not. I didn't even know I could do it, but I really wanted to push myself and test my own gifts. And sometimes we don't know we have these gifts inside until we do have an opportunity to find them. So anyway, this woman had heard about me and knew the other girl, the Irish girl. And so she was flying in from New York to film us on an investigation. And I had my agency, which was a, you know, investigations agency for paranormal activity. And so my agency service to those who needed spiritual help and demonic removal. Now, I said to you the other day, don't set up an agency and be a banana brain and go out there thinking you can remove demonics or negative entities or poltergeist or specters or unnatural psychic ability or grandma who's come back to haunt the house. It is very dangerous work. And if you don't know that to be true, then you don't know anything about really doing an investigation. And I'm going to tell you more about this story, and you'll get to understand what I mean, okay? Sometimes my words trigger people, and that's all right, because you can just move on to the next YouTube channel. You don't have to be here. And to those of you that can stand listening, you know it's coming from a place of love. But we're in a spiritual war right now. We haven't got time for snowflakes. This is the Not Snowflake channel, all right? So as I share, I do feel I have a duty of care to tell the truth and tell you how friggin' dangerous it is to be going into places and trying to move entities, most definitely. And if you're someone who does it and you've messed around with a Ouija board, good luck with that, boo. Good luck with that. Once you open yourself and you've let spirits come into the body around you there, you're always going to be at risk. And that is not a joke. It doesn't help you to do a Ouija. It actually prevents your encasement, your protection. So, you know, you got to know the truth, right? We got to know the truth. Take it or leave it. With love. All right. Okay. Now, so the agency that I set up. So there was a mother who feared something dark was in her home and it was affecting the health and mindset of her 16-year-old daughter. And Siobhan, the Irish woman, the Irish friend, and I thought it would be a good investigation to film. The producer, whose name I won't say, flew in from San Diego to meet us. She is a very experienced film director and a fun-loving, super Irish woman. She was great fun on the day. We met at the home of Judy. Judy was the mother who called me to say, I'm really worried about my daughter. Something's really wrong in the house. There's something really dark in the house. We know it's been in for a long time. It's kicking off. It's affecting her health. We're scared. They were terrified. So we go to the house, the home of Judy and her daughter, Julia. It's a nice, large, open plan home with a long hallway that leads to a family room and kitchen. There was a parrot in the cage, and Judy told us that the parrot had not been its chatty self. for quite some time. Siobhan and I both felt the heaviness and darkness and malevolence as soon as we entered into this house. Julia, the teenager, was nervous but highly intelligent, and she told us she had to leave ballet school due to an autoimmune disease. I want to give you some imagery here. It was a big detached house in San Diego in Carlsbad, and you go in the front door, and there was a long corridor. There was a long corridor, and then the stairs went up to the left, a big staircase, and then down, and there was one room over here with a piano in it. Then it went into another family room, and then it swept round to a kitchen, and there was also a dining room in between. And there was a huge parrot cage with a bird in it. And the parrot was like one of those really annoying chatty Cathys, like chit-chat, chit-chat, and it had just shut down. It had shut down. And they have an extraordinary amount of cats. I think it was something like 9. A lot of them were ginger tabbies, and the cats were misbehaving. Another reason why they felt everything had amped up in this house. And this poor little girl, she was actually 15. She was 16 when this got released. Oh, so sad, Julia. And her first love was ballet, but her body was deteriorating, and she was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So she had to leave ballet school. She'd lost all her strength, this little girl. Now she's back in that house, and now the paranormal activity is really ramped up, and that's why we're there. Julia was heartbroken as ballet had been her life, and now she had to endure seeing her older brother and younger sister passing her by in their own ballet genius. She and her mother shared with us that there'd been bad energy in the house for years, plus a terrible divorce. Oh my God. I used to now and again meet up with the mother before all this happened, and I'd have to like put a bag over her head to stop her going on about how awful her divorce was. She just was so affected by it. Obviously sometimes I was able to, just get her through it. Other times I'd be like, we try and just make her happy. And sometimes you just had to say, mate, please, let someone else talk tonight. We want to talk about her new dog or her new relationship or whatever. But anyway, just to make the point that the dark energy was very much part of the mother's frequency too. That's the point I'm hoping I'm making. So the terrible divorce from Julia's father that had been severely upsetting for all involved. I advised Julia that this was her house, and she needed to push back on feeling otherwise, as no spirit ever had the right to make a living person feel they should not be there. Siobhan and I started our walk with the film director, following with her camera to film us. I had my Egyptian Coptic that I did buy in Egypt. I had frankincense and myrrh and moldavite oil. Don't know if you know what moldavite oil is, but years ago there was a meteor that crashed in the country that was Yugoslavia. Now it's part of Croatia and Serbia and that part of Eastern Europe, and a bit over. Moldavite became a substance that basically, if you hold a piece of moldavite up, a solid piece, it looks black like coal. But when you hold it to the light, it looks like this color green, like kryptonite, moldavite. You can get it in little rings. You can get it in necklaces. I had a big piece of it. It's very expensive. It's very rare. And they make oil. So I would often mix frankincense and myrrh, because that's from thousands of years ago, as a protection essence energy that you create, that you alchemize to protect, to clear, to cleanse the air around you. That's why these ancient tools are there. And then put some moldavite oil in the Coptic. And the Coptic is the thing you see the Catholics swinging around in there. The churches. It's not just for Catholics, of course. It's way ancient Sumerian times, Egyptian, anthropology. So it goes way back, and I was very attracted to using that particular instrument of protection, mixing all different, Egypt, Sumeria, Yugoslavia, Israel, Jerusalem, things that we've heard about, the moldavite, the and the frankincense. Siobhan had her sage, which is a bunch of sage, obviously very much to the indigenous beings that grow it wildly in the world. And she had a singing bowl, which is brass, and you have a little velvet wooden hammer. When struck, it produces sounds, and the sounds a high pitch, and the negative entities do not like it. Another reason why we want to make sound when we're going on an investigation, I would bang tuning forks together, or the little Tibetan chimes on a string, you know, you bang them together, they're like two little cymbals, or the bowls. They really do not like the bowls. It purifies the air and it kicks them up the arse if they're not supposed to be in your home or environment. I also have my copper rods, dowsing rods, that when held correctly move in different directions when asked certain questions. My intent was to sense negative energy with them and to check we had cleared each level of the home from energy that should not have been there. Now, before you start going into the program of, oh, is that a Ouija? No, the Ouija board is something highly dangerous and completely different. The Ouija board is what will trap your soul and your children's. I make I will not hold back on a Ouija. I don't care how advanced you think you are, even if you're wildly clairvoyant, which you need to be to ever use a Ouija board. You must be able to see the demonics or the entities or the earthbounds. You know, even knowing those three categories of physical formed, spirit formed only entities, you have to know what you're doing. Ouija board is the worst of the worst. I say it's more dangerous than a gun. That's what I believe, and that's my actual interpretation of the level of danger that you are in if you mess with a Ouija. So the dowsing rods are nothing to do with the Ouija. They've used them to find water, to find oil. They move with the frequency and energy, and you can interact with them. It's very natural. You could say it's aligned to physics, the science of physics. Again, just to explain, because more have also asked me to explain how I do what I do when I'm doing investigations, what tools I use, and that they liked the interaction, not just a straightforward story, because you get so much more while you've got me here at this moment, being able to gift you this investigation, but how I kept safe and the things that I did there. So my intent was to sense negative energy and then check we cleared each level of the home from energy that should not have been there. Siobhan and I both noted that we had hammering headaches as we walked through the house. The energy was terrible and bombarding us. The night before we went to this home, I had a dream that I'd gone into this teenager's bedroom and laid down on her bed. In the dream, I closed my eyes, and when I looked up above me, a black mass was hovering directly above, and it started to reach down to me, aiming for my heart, and I woke up in my own bed with a jump. Now, I do not usually lay down during a spiritual investigation, a paranormal investigation. I thought it was really odd to have such a dream. Plus, I'm a bit of a germaphobe, or I certainly was back then, and I would never lay on someone's bed. That's a bit ooh to me. So it was really strange to have a dream like that. When we got to the top of the stairs in this house, we stopped to take everything in. We asked the mother and the teen to stay in the kitchen and to ignore any noise they may hear coming from us, as we're both, me and Siobhan, very passionate intuitives, and devoted to help others, to not stand for bullying negative spirits. Not for any bullying negative spirits, because these were very much bullying negative spirits. Whatever was in that house was bombarding, and it was trying to dominate, and it actually had the greatest energy, because there was so much fear and terror in the house from the inhabitants that lived there. The entities were looshing off the batteries of fear that the humans in the house were running. So as their terror was mounting and they're emitting fear, it's shutting down the animals, it's enclosing the dark feeling in the whole of the house, and the entity is getting bigger because it is drawing energy from the living inhabitants, thus using them as hosts. Make sense? It's quite scary when you think about it too much, but there's always a way through. There's always a route out. At the top of the stairs, as we were taking everything in, we'd asked the mother and teenager to stay there and ignore any noises. And we will not stand for bullying negative spirits, especially when it comes to children of all ages. As we stood at the top of the stairs, I felt the strongest negative energy like pushing into my space. And I claimed that this home had the energy of a mental asylum. Siobhan agreed, and she felt the same energies. There was a long hallway off the top of the stairs landing, and it was a walkway. And as I was linking into the energies, I saw in solid form a little blonde-haired boy who looked at me like he just appeared completely solid. He looked about 5 years old, little beautiful Archangel Michael, blonde hair, big blue eyes, little shorts, old-fashioned jacket, little socks and shoes. Like the detail I was able to like snapshot in that quantum moment, looking at this little person that came out of nowhere, a little spirit boy, and he looked, and I was like, oh, you know, because that's the instant connection. And that's what I felt, this beautiful, sweet little boy. And I was thinking to the energies I saw in form, this little blonde-haired boy who looked at me, ran into a doorway. I followed that energy, and in my soul, I knew that it was not a sweet little boy. It's what we call a mimic that showed himself to me, but a malevolent spirit trying to fool us into empathy and a sad story. You know what, that right there reminds me a little bit of, remember that movie with, what's his name? William, you know, big ears, actor, mixed race. Oh my God, you know, him, the black guy, mixed race guy, did Men in Black, him, Will Smith, there we are, Will Smith. There's an element where he's trying to do the training for Men in Black, where he's given a 2-second amount of time to look at a room full of monsters and people with guns. There's a little blonde-haired girl there holding a book on physics. He's the only one that chooses her as the dangerous one. Everyone's laughing at him like, haha, why would you imagine ever choosing a child? Because she really was the entity in the room. Again, it's reversing everything that we've seen. And when you do see a dark entity, even if at first you're taken by the image, when you link, when you feel, when you take that extra second to feel the resonance of that, you get it. You feel it. We've all got that talent. We've all got it. It's called your gut instinct. We've all got it. Don't think you haven't, because you have. I followed the energy, and in my soul, I knew that it was not a sweet little boy that showed himself to me, but a malevolent spirit trying to fool us into empathy and a full story. The doorway led to a hallway that had a laundry room off to the left. And as we entered the room, we knew that this was where the most heinous entity was harboring itself. It was the bedroom of the teenager. We'd never been upstairs. I'd never been to that house before. I'd never been upstairs in that house before. And that's where the entity led us. And it was the little girl's bedroom, Julia's bedroom. Siobhan used their brass singing bowl, and both of us felt rage boiling up inside of us, and we could clearly see that this was Julia's bedroom. And just as my dream had predicted the night before, I just found myself kicking off my shoes, and then I laid down on the bed and I closed my eyes. What I saw clairvoyantly above me was a solid, thick black mass that hovered 5 feet above the bed. It was at least 2 feet thick, black and grey swirling mass, moving, alive, malevolent. It was so big and long in length that it went through the bedroom, through the attached bathroom, into the next bedroom, which was Julia's younger sister, into the mother's room, and then up through the ceiling. This was the negative portal vortex that the entity used to come into the house and bring harm to the teenage girl. Now, I'm just going to give you a visual here. When I lay down on the bed, flat, and I look up with my eyes closed, like looking with my third eye, looking with my senses, it was it was about this thick, and it was long, this long, black, dark, gray, and white smoke, like super, super long, right? Long. And it was moving like this, like a literal entity, energy, dark energy. And it was going down, and it was taking the life force energy of that young lady. That's what it was doing. It got a bit of a shock when I was there. And it was feeding into me, but it was all set up that way. Siobhan and I, we raged at this beast. We realized the entity had been sucking the life and soul out of this young girl for years, and this had resulted in her current illness. Siobhan banged her singing bowl fiercely, and words and rage and obscenities came out of our mouths together as we swore that this entity would no longer harm the child of this family or this family. I could not recommend this stance I do not recommend this stance when dealing with all entities, but this particular entity needed a good kicking. We call it matching energy. Sometimes when you're with a darkness, rather than go the route of empathy, sympathy, understanding when it's that dark and it means to harm or kill or maim, sometimes you have to match that frequency. And so we did a technique before we started. It's called matching crowns. So we match crown energy together. It's called the termination technique. I don't know whether I speak about it here. I'm sure I do, but it's good to know, you know, this is the sequence of steps that we take for, again, our protection going into such a hostile environment, which looks like this amazing house and, you know, San Diego, really gorgeous, wealthy family. Not that that makes any difference, of course, we know that. And then if you don't protect yourself, you just assume you're good and you're safe, you can really, really come unstuck and you can get physically hurt yourself. So this particular entity needed a good kicking. The film director was a good sport, but was clearly emotionally moved by our outcry. And at one point I noticed 3 sharp claw marks, red, fresh scratches on my right arm. And Siobhan felt the entity trying to reconnect to her energy, like trying to get into her energy. Terrible idea for this Irish redhead. She has a fierce temper. She railed against it, swearing, shouting, and threatening its very existence. Again, when you go into a situation like this, you really need to take somebody who is experienced and qualified in at least part of dealing with something so dark and so heinous, but certainly somebody else who is fearless, not stupid, not trying to be all that in a bag of chips, not trying to be a martyr and save people, because you can get caught up in the very thing you've gone to protect. So it's no joke again. We'd asked Julia and Judy to remain downstairs, but we realized that they had crept upstairs to take a peek at what we were doing, and that they became so frightened by our screaming and shouting and raging and swearing that they ran back downstairs as fast as they could. Siobhan and I used everything we knew to remove this dangerous entity that was neither former human nor alien, but an evil mass that thrived in the fear and on the fear of others, especially vulnerable, sensitive children. We prayed and matched the terrible energy of this evil with threats, and we made ourselves energetically bigger than it. There's a very powerful technique I call the termination, and it can only be used in specific investigations due to its immediate destruction, whereby the entity is forced to go back to its initial point of evolution. It is said to be a painful awakening to such an entity, and this was definitely a time to use it. Using our intent, we chose a color to both imagine in our minds, and we created electromagnetic energy between us at our crowns. And then we linked together at our crowns, the top of our heads, the crown energy chakra. And we formed a barrier of energy by going to a particular color and dimension of energy that I am not permitted to share. And in doing so, we evaporated the presence. Siobhan noticed that the entity, when it tried to attack her, had felt masculine. And she pointed out the fact that the father of the house and the older son had both been removed from the home, thus leaving a mother and her 2 girls alone. Once we cleared every area, we entered the small laundry room that is situated next to Julia's bedroom. The entity tried to appear as a child again and give a pathetic story of being innocent. We let the entity know that we did not care for its story. And Siobhan told the beast very clearly that it knew it was attaching to innocence. When we went back down to the kitchen, Judy shared that Julia practically fainted and lost her breath. And I explained that when an entity is removed, it pulls its energy out of the person. In this situation, it was Julia, that it had been attached to with great force, but that was a good thing that she literally felt it. We prayed with the mother and child. The parrot seemed to find its voice again, and at least 4 cats came barreling through the cat flap in the kitchen where we were, all at the same time. we could all feel the lightness in the house that was taking place at that moment, and the presence of pure love and angelic essence was palpable. There was a beautiful light that flooded the home, and the presence of the angelics was everywhere. It was everywhere. It was like when we went in the house, it was in shadow. It was in, like the sun was out. And as we went through, moved through and removed this entity, it was like the sun was just coming through every pore in that home. And the animals just responded immediately to it. And we do know, those of us that have animals, how sensitive animals are to light, to love, to safety. And that's what happened in that home. It was just so beautiful. The angelics were everywhere. The light of them, the harmonic resonance of them was so beautiful. There was a light presence that seemed to hold several of these beautiful beings, and I felt them breathe through me and the house, the animals, and everyone that had been connected to that experience. Some days later, we went back to the house to check on Julia. We were delighted to hear that she had not needed to take her medication, and her doctor was amazed at her seemingly miraculous recovery. Siobhan and I are not doctors, and we do not suggest that anyone stops taking medications after such an experience, but we do suggest that if you do have a similar experience whereby a force has appeared to try to own you, that you literally feel its release, that you do visit your doctor and always be safe and always be sensible. You know, sometimes these things happen on miraculous, spontaneous healing, and sometimes it just lasts a brief time. Many reasons for that. Sometimes the person that's received the healing goes back to old situations, old mind programs, or continues eating the bad foods it was being manipulated into eating, which then can actually, not in this case, but bring other entities back. You know, the body gets very used to being a certain frequency of energy. And when you clear and you make a big shift, it takes a little bit to, you know, get used to that. And sometimes their body's energy will literally reach out and try and pull back that which is familiar. So we must always be mindful of these things as and when we do them, and just have the awareness that sometimes it can take a little bit adjustment and we can easily fall back into the old patterns and the old programs. That's why we can continue running on a loop sometimes. Yeah, we advise that visit your doctor and always be safe and sensible. Children are highly sensitive to negative energy, and if your child is telling you that there is something in the closet or under the bed, please listen to them. Listen to them. Make yourself as large as a giant. Chase the monsters away. Rather this than dismiss what is very real to the child. You know, it's so sad because that was my life, and I know that was some of your lives. Nobody ever believed me that there was something awful. There were these awful things, physical things that would be in our house. Our house was so haunted. And just because the other kids in the house never saw it doesn't mean it didn't happen. I was traumatized. I was damaged. I was a weird, odd kid. I was a runt. I didn't grow correctly. I didn't function correctly. I couldn't think correctly. I was so traumatized by everything I could see. And to the adults that had no concept of this, you know, probably wanted to put me in the funny farm mental institution because I didn't function, because I was so traumatized by the spiritual realm that I could see, because there are those of us who are born that way. We are born awake. I don't recommend it. It's a really tough journey. But what it does do now, the adult I am, the amount of energy I've done and work I've done in healing myself through the help of others and books and things I've gone and training I've had to overcome being clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient, I'm able to put a lot of my experiences in this book for you and others, angels, demons, and aliens. I'm able to sit and share much more insight into the straightforward story, which in itself is a help, and I know that, but also give you more context to it. But I also want to say to all of you who did suffer a childhood like that, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, my love. I'm so sorry that you weren't believed and that you suffered, and some of you had to stay in the bedroom where the haunting was happening, or the demonic, or the imp, or the alien, or the being was in the room with you, and the adults there, no matter how much they loved you or they didn't love you, they didn't have the spiritual ability that you do, which was light years ahead of any one of them, because they clearly couldn't see them, they clearly couldn't feel them, which means that you were the superior spiritualist, spiritual master, if you like, although I don't like that word master, but just to elaborate on the point, you know, that you were the highest feeling frequency, the brightest light of all in that. And I hope there's a little healing in that, because let's say that your dad was a vicar or a bishop or whatever, your mom was the greatest medium in the whole of, you know, Chattanooga, and yet none of them could see. Doesn't that make you feel good for a minute? You know, that now you can reclaim that spiritual sovereignty that you had as a child in this moment. And in doing that, you actually receive a healing. You are validated through people like me and books like this. You are able to witness yourself, observe yourself then, observe the life you've had, recognize the healing, if any, that you've done. It doesn't suddenly make you a master again at going out and being a demon slayer. That seems to be a cool thing. You know, kids on TikTok or whatever think that's cool to do. They're going to get their asses handed to them. A lot of them are going to get in serious trouble. So we need to be speaking out to help them and to help people like you who are in recovery from traumatized childhoods like I was, to this moment now, owning it, claiming it, speaking it, but also sharing the protocols, sharing that you must be safe, that you must be careful. Now, I am not a Christian. I'm not a Catholic. I'm not anything. I don't choose a formed and organized man-made religion, because they all are. But I do have my own personal relationship with Jesus, and I don't care if that makes you feel a bit warmer towards me, because it could be anybody. I could have picked anybody, but because I saw him when I was 7, and then you can go into, well, you're obviously a demon. That was a demon in disguise. How the bloody hell would you know? You weren't there and you didn't see it. Anyway, believe me, I've had these conversations over the years. But I do have a real connection with the Christ light. And I sometimes still will always call that name 3 times, 3 times, 3 times. Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ. If I'm in a position where I'm being visited by something maybe, or I'm trying to help somebody in a house, office, land environment, there were even haunted boats. You'd be surprised. You'd be very surprised. Yeah, I did a huge boat once down in Coronado, California. Massive. Well, it was actually a yacht. It was so big. And there was the spirit of a dead grandmother who was a real bitch. You know what they say? Don't speak ill of the dead. No, speak ill of the dead. If they were complete bastards on this planet, why would we suddenly start lying and saying, oh, they were, you know, everybody has a good side, we hope. And certainly people have mean sides. And this woman was a bitch. And I had to hand her ass. I had to get her off that boat into the light. She had to be handled because she was deliberately, mercilessly haunting her daughter, her living husband, and the daughter's husband. They were terrified. They were living a terrified, scary life, you know. And, you know, I'm not scared of the dead. You know, I'm not scared of the dead. When you've seen it all, you're not scared of the dead. And you do have to put protocols in place, and you do have to recognize if someone's a bitch when they were living, they don't always just like get over it. If they're haunting, they're not over it. And then you get those that were really bad when they lived, and they're in the light, and they've had a transformation. They've done the work. They've seen the damage they did. They've acknowledged it came from their trauma, and then they grew in that trauma, and then they persisted in a way that maybe they'd been treated or not. Some people are just born bad. Not many, unless they're in that little group of shitheads that run the planet, but we're not talking about them today. Anyway, this is straightforward spiritual healing, spiritual teaching, real life experience, honoring you on your journey. And I hope that this has been helpful. Again, children are highly sensitive to negative energy. Don't dismiss them, believe them. And you know, rather than dismiss what is real to the child, as this investigation in particular is the real life experience of a young girl who for years was being attacked by a malevolent force. And you know, some of the things you can do, you dads out there, you know, if your kid's scared, you know, go get in that closet and beat the shit out of the clothes, you know, throw shoes under the bed, like rah, you know, make it a big thing. Get the child to confront what's there. Tell the child that the thing they're scared of is really a child spirit who snuck out of its house and its mummy doesn't know where it is. Like, belittle and diminish the fear in the child. You get to do that as the adult to inform the child that that little spirit should not be here. His mummy doesn't know. I did this with a 4-year-old. His mummy doesn't know he's out. He's not allowed. If he comes back here again, you growl at him. You growl. You know, it empowers the child. You know, you don't want to be like me, like ignored, shut in the room with the door shut. No, it's just, it messes you up. It messes you up. I don't even know how I have my sanity today, to be honest with you, but I do. And I guess it was part of my journey. I don't recommend it. I really don't. Anyway, I'm going to go just to let you know this week. Oh my gosh, I have the beautiful George Lewis coming on. He's our resident astrologer. We're going to look at some of his insanely beautiful artwork too. Some people just come in and paint like the masters, don't they? We think, how on earth can you do that? What is that gift in you that can do that? We also have Ginny Jablonski this week. Ginny Jablonski is a prolific animal communicator. I think we're going to be working with her beautiful dogs, her Labradoodles, and she works with so many horses. There's so many herds of horses. She's truly a phenomenon. Ginny Jablonski. We also have this week the great physicist Dan Winter, the one and only Dan Winter. We will be discussing abbreviations of the words Jerusalem, Israel, and other things. Also, let me just also see who's coming on this week. We've got other people coming up. Well, I'm just going to do this week ahead. All right, I'm going to send you my love. My name is DANI Henderson. We'll be announcing Galactic Spiritual Informers Connection, our next event, our next conference here for you soon. So you'll be able to get your tickets before Christmas. And if you want some Christmas present ideas, you can either get the Angels, Demons, and Aliens book and give it away, give it to people you know have had experiences. You can get any of our merchandise from Galactic Spiritual Informers on Spread Shop. I'll put the link underneath there. So beautiful. We have plain silver ones like this too, but I just like the bling. And we also are going to be doing early bird prices on our tickets for 2024 for JISC 2024. All right. My name is DANI Henderson. Thank you for spending time. I do honestly hope this has helped you a lot. Let me know if it has helped you. Let me know if there's any of the tools I mentioned that I use on paranormal investigations that maybe you don't understand, and I'll be happy to help you a little bit more, help you a bit more on that. All right. Stay safe, stay protected, and I send you my love, and I will see you soon. Bye.